Yo, it's good everyone. This is Ayo Boxing from Madiba, and we're here to talk about Shakur Stevenson versus Edwin de los Santos. And before I talk about this fight, I am a Shakur Stevenson fan. He's one of my favorite fighters, and I think he's one of the best boxers in the sport. And I've always enjoyed watching pure boxers and counterpunchers, but Shakur Stevenson disappointed me last night. I rarely say this, but that was a boring ass fight. It was trash, and I honestly think that this performance has lowered the stock of Shakur tremendously. And yes, I know Shakur won the fight basically with one hand, and that Edwin de los Santos didn't do much either, but that doesn't matter because narratives run boxing, and this fight will feed into those narratives that Shakur is boring and overrated. The general consensus going into this fight was that Shakur would dominate, with the early rounds being competitive until Shakur adjusted and then controlled the fight. But none of that happened. It was very clear that Shakur was uncomfortable with the speed, explosiveness, and power of Edwin de los Santos because Shakur refused to engage. Shakur was overly defensive. Anytime de los Santos moved forward, Shakur would back up in a straight line out of range and clinch whenever de los Santos closed the distance. And Shakur had no offense in this fight. The only punch that he threw in this fight was the jab, which wasn't even consistently landing, and he never worked off that jab. He barely threw his left hand or any combination, to be honest, and it took him until like the 10th round to let his left hand go and the 12th for him to throw actual combinations, and when he did, it was still sparse. What's even crazier to me is that Shakur did not counterpunch and make de los Santos pay for his mistakes and misses, despite having an opportunity to do so several times. This was like the Jeremiah Nakatilia fight, but at least in that fight, Shakur got some knockdowns and let his hands go occasionally. This fight was way worse than that. And I understand playing it safe to a degree, hit and not get hit, but Shakur took no risk in this fight, which made it a bad and disappointing performance. And we also have to place some blame on de los Santos because he didn't do much either, but that doesn't really matter because Shakur is the bigger name and was talking a big game before this fight. Furthermore, de los Santos was the one going forward most of the time, so people will naturally blame Shakur. And with the co-main being a potential fight of the year, it's easy to understand why people are calling this fight boring, and I have to agree. Shakur has always had a reputation of being boring before this fight, but his last 4 fights against Herring, Valdez, Conceição, and Yoshino were changing that narrative. Those fights were entertaining, especially the Yoshino fight, and Shakur was getting momentum among boxing fans, being seen as the next big thing and being compared to Floyd Mayweather, Pernell Whitaker, Terrence Crawford, and other great fighters. But last night destroyed that momentum and set him backwards. And now Shakur is officially seen as a boring fighter. And based on how the fans and other fighters were reacting, this boring label will stick. This is a bad look because this performance will affect his marketability and appeal to casual fans, and possibly deter pay-per-view fights in the future, and will probably also affect ticket sales outside of New Jersey. This fight can also be used as a convenient excuse for other fighters to not fight Shakur. And because Shakur is so outspoken, especially on social media, Shakur is going to be an easy target and a punching bag for the fans. There are speculations that Shakur was injured going into this fight. People are saying that his shoulder and left hand were injured, which could be true, but that's still not an excuse. Tank injured his left hand mid-fight against Pitbull Cruz, but still put on an entertaining fight and a good performance. And Devin Haney essentially beat George Kambosos in the first fight with one hand, which was his jab, in a more dominating fashion than Shakur did last night. Hopefully this fight humbles Shakur a bit. I think he should lay off Twitter, drama, and just focus on his craft more, because he definitely needs to bounce back with some good performances to gain the respect and trust back from the fans. But what I do know is that if Shakur ever fights Tank, he can't do what he did last night because that's going to get him beat and possibly knocked out. But who knows, this is boxing, anything can happen. But thank you for tuning in with Ayo Boxing from Madiba. Hit like, subscribe, and more content's coming your way.